Does this mean this is the list?
Numbers haven't changed,
Okay.
unlike the hurricane. The 5 names had been leaked before, and so this is something that the markets have been absorbing for a couple of weeks. So I don't think it's going to have a whole lot of impact on people's thinking at the moment until we get much closer. Bessent said he's going to hold another round of interviews, and that may lead to some further leaks about who he likes or doesn't like. And he suggested that after Thanksgiving, he would send a couple of names to the president to choose from. There's a lot of thought that the president already knows who he wants. He's just not telling us. So doesn't look like it'll take too long for him to settle on someone. And the president said on Air Force One on his way to Asia that he expected to make a decision in December. So of the 5, the 2 Kevins and Chris Waller, McKee Bowman, and Rick Rieder, one of those is likely the next either the most powerful person in the world or the second most powerful person in the world, depending on who you're talking to.
Mike, a lot to ask when it comes to these individuals and these names, all familiar to us and to the Bloomberg audience, of course. But in terms of policy, are there big policy differences between them and the way they think about the role of the Federal Reserve?
There's probably less division among them in terms of whether they fight inflation hard. Most of them are hawkish. The biggest difference is in other ways that the Fed operates. There's a couple of them, including Kevin Warsh and McKee Bowman, who've suggested we get rid of the system that they use now, which is called the floor system. Go back to the corridor system, which is where the Fed intervenes on a daily basis to move the benchmark rate around, like we used to have in until basically 2000 or early 2000s during the financial crisis, when they changed to this new system, which is what most of the world uses. But there are people who would like to make that change, which would be a massive change on Wall Street because the whole infrastructure has grown up around it. And I can see a lot of people on repo desks going, over my dead body, you'll change it. But that, and then there's disagreements among how broad the Fed's powers should be in terms of lending to financial institutions and in terms of doing things like QE going forward.
You know, what's interesting is Fed decisions obviously influenced a lot by the Fed chair, no doubt about it. We've talked with you before about the voices that really count at the U.S. Central Bank. Having said that, it is a group. So I don't know, are we silly to think, okay, there will be still discussions around the table and still a lot of Fed governors that have been there for years?
Oh, sure. That's exactly what you'll get, at least for a number of years while most of the current cast is on board at the Fed. You will maybe get somebody who wants to cut rates more quickly, but they'll get pushback from people. And a lot of this just depends on the diplomatic skills of the chair. The whole thing with the chair is that they talk to everybody, so they have a pretty good idea where everybody sits as they go into the room. And the theory is you try to pull people towards the most acceptable decision and get as much consensus as you can. There's always going to be sometimes some dissents, but try to get many people on board as you can. So sometimes the chair comes in with an absolute vision of what needs to be done, and sometimes they come in with a divided Fed like we have now, and the chair is going to kind of reflect back the plurality or majority view and try to get people into one corner or another.
Does the process typically play out like this? Are the names floated months ahead?
No, this has been very unusual. We've not had anything like it in my memory, which goes back to when Alan Greenspan was selected. And I know that what happened a couple of Fed chair before that. There's never been sort of a beauty contest like this. There were some names leaked early in terms of who would replace Ben Bernanke. Bernanke came from the Bush staff and as CEA chair, and he had already been on the Fed, so people were kind of expecting him. But with Janet Yellen, she was chosen because she was sort of a very obvious candidate for a Democratic president to appoint. But then when it came time to Donald Trump, he decided she was too short, and Jay Powell looked like a central banker. And so he said...
Is that the truth?
That's what the president has said.
Okay.
To help determine his decision. Both of them were qualified. So we don't know for sure who is the handsomest among this group.
And to be fair, he has said he has regretted his decision to pick Jay Powell. But
well, sure.
I'm curious also, Mike, about this idea of a shadow Fed chair, because there was talk about this a few months ago. Is doing this in public right now, does it undermine the power of Jay Powell, or will it if we get a pick or an announcement in the next few months?
Well, it could. It depends on when we get the announcement, in part because they have to go through the confirmation process, and generally anybody who is nominated for a senior job in the administration, in any administration, shuts up as soon as they're nominated, because you don't want to make anybody mad up on Capitol Hill and not get voted for. So they'd be quiet for a while, and I suppose this is in theory for the seat that Stephen Myron holds now, which would be a 14-year seat, which is why they'd want to put the chair in that. And so they'd want by the end of January, if they can, to get somebody confirmed. So after that, though, then, it's going to be up to the personality of the chair, the incoming chair, whether they want to publicly break with the actual chair.